You think you're watching this right now. You're not. I'm serious. Whatever's happening on this screen, the light leaving it, traveling through the air, hitting your eyes, that already took time. A tiny amount, sure, nanoseconds, but it happened, which means by the time your brain registers this moment, it's already gone. That's not a metaphor, that's not philosophy, that's physics. And it only gets stranger from here. Let's start simple. Light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach you. So when you look up at the sun, don't, by the way, you're seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. The nearest star beyond our sun, 4 years away. The Andromeda Galaxy, 2.5 million years. You look at it tonight and you're seeing light that left before humans existed. You have never, not once in your entire life, seen the universe as it currently is. You've only ever seen the past. A very convincing, very detailed picture of the past. But the past. Now you might say, okay, fine, stars are far away. But I'm touching this table. That's immediate. That's now. Is it? Your fingertip presses down. Pressure receptors fire. A signal starts traveling up through your nervous system toward your brain. That signal moves fast, around 70, maybe 120 meters per second, depending on the nerve fiber. Sounds fast. But your spinal cord is about half a meter long. Your brain is further still. By the time that I'm touching something message arrives, roughly 80 milliseconds have passed. 80 milliseconds. That doesn't sound like much. But it's enough. It's a measurable, real gap between the event and your knowledge of the event. You are always, always living just slightly behind what's actually happening. And here's what makes it weirder. Your eyes, your ears, your skin, they all send signals that arrive at different times. Sound travels slower than light. Nerve fibers have different speeds. Everything reaches your brain at slightly different moments. So how do you experience a single, unified now? How does the table sound solid at the same instant it feels solid? Your brain cheats. It holds the faster signals in a kind of waiting room and assembles them with the slower ones. It syncs everything up, smooths it out, and presents you with a seamless experience of the present moment. But that experience isn't live. It's a broadcast, delayed, edited, and assembled by a brain working just slightly behind reality. You're not watching a live feed. You're watching the news 2 hours later, and the anchor is very convincing. But it goes deeper. Because your brain doesn't just delay, it predicts. This is where neuroscience gets genuinely strange. Your brain doesn't passively wait for sensory information and then build a picture of the world. It constantly generates a model of what's probably happening based on past experience and then checks incoming data against that model. If the data matches, great, your model continues. If it doesn't, your brain updates. What you experience isn't raw reality. It's your brain's best running guess about what's out there. There's a spot in your eye, the exact point where the optic nerve connects, where there are 0 photoreceptors. No light can be detected there at all. It's called the blind spot, and you never see it. Not as a hole, not as a gap, not as anything, because your brain fills it in. It looks at what's around it, makes a reasonable inference, and paints something there that probably makes sense. You are literally seeing something your eye never detected. That's not a flaw. That's the system working. Prediction is faster than processing. And in a world where you need to react quickly, a brain that guesses well beats a brain that waits for complete information. But the cost of that speed is this. What you experience is never purely what's there. It's always filtered, interpreted, constructed. The world you walk around in, the colors, the solidity, the timing, the continuity, it's a model, a very sophisticated one, but a model. Now I want to take you somewhere else. Forget neurons, forget biology. Let's go to physics, because physics is going to tell us something even more uncomfortable. Einstein figured out in 1905 that time doesn't work the way we think it does. And one of the things he showed us, mathematically, experimentally, rigorously, is that there is no universal now. Here's what I mean. Imagine 2 lightning bolts strike either end of a moving train at the same moment. If you're standing on the platform watching the train go by, you see both lightning strikes at the same time, simultaneous. But someone sitting in the middle of that train, moving with it, sees the lightning at the front of the train before the lightning at the back, because they're moving toward one flash and away from the other. Light travels at the same speed in all directions, so the timing changes depending on your motion. And here's the punch. Both observers are right. Neither one is making an error. The physics genuinely says the events were simultaneous for one person and not simultaneous for the other. There's no fact of the matter about which is correct. Physicists call this the relativity of simultaneity. It sounds like a technical term. It is a technical term. But what it means is this: your now and my now are not the same thing if we're moving at different velocities. Not approximately the same. They can genuinely disagree about whether an event has happened yet. The universe does not have a single present moment. There's no cosmic clock ticking in sync for everyone. The idea that there's one now happening everywhere at once, that's not something physics supports. It never did. We just assumed it because everything around us moves so slowly that the differences are invisible. This has been tested, by the way. GPS satellites have to correct for relativistic effects on time, or they'd be useless within minutes. The effect is real, small, but real. And at high enough speeds or strong enough gravitational fields, the difference becomes enormous. So we have a problem. Biology tells us we're always perceiving the recent past, not the present. And physics tells us the present isn't even a well-defined thing to begin with. Some physicists take this seriously and end up somewhere extraordinary. It's called the block universe, or eternalism if you want the philosophical label. The idea is this: space-time is a four-dimensional structure. Past, present, future all exist equally, the way left and right exist equally in space. Time doesn't flow. Nothing moves through it. The sensation of moving forward through time, of the present sweeping into the future, that's something our consciousness generates. The universe itself as a physical object is static, complete. Every moment that has ever happened or will happen is equally real, equally present in the structure of space-time. Your life in this picture is a thread running through that block. You at age 5, and you right now, and you 20 years from now, all equally real, all sitting there in the geometry of space-time. The you that's experiencing this moment isn't moving. It's just located here, in this particular slice, looking in one direction and calling it now. I want to be honest with you. This isn't settled. There are serious physicists who reject the block universe. They argue that time really does flow, that the present really is special, and that there's something wrong with taking the equations too literally. There are people working on this right now. It's an open question. But the block universe takes Einstein seriously, and it's very hard to dismiss. What I find remarkable is that we started with something so ordinary. You watching a screen, me talking, and ended up here. At the possibility that time doesn't flow, that now is a personal construct, that the entire river of your experience might be something your mind is doing to a static landscape it can't actually see. But then something else enters the picture, something that none of the physics handles. You can map every photon arriving at your eye. You can track every nerve signal, every synaptic firing, every millisecond of delay. You can lay out the whole architecture of perception in beautiful, precise detail. And when you're done, when you've explained all of it, there's still something you haven't explained: the experience itself. Why does any of this feel like something? Why isn't it just signals firing in the dark, automatic, silent, no one home? Why is there a you experiencing a now with warmth and weight and presence, even if that now is technically delayed, reconstructed, and physically ambiguous? This is what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness. Not the wiring, not the processing, not the delay or the construction or the prediction. Those are all hard in their own way, but they're tractable. We can study them. We can make progress. The hard problem is different. It's asking why there's any subjective experience at all, why the lights are on, why there's someone home. And the answer is, we don't know. Genuinely don't know. Neuroscience gives us maps of activity. It does not give us an explanation of experience. The gap between a description of the brain and the fact of consciousness, nobody has crossed that gap. Nobody even has a convincing bridge proposal. So here's where we are. You came here thinking you were experiencing the present moment. Let's look at what we actually found. The light from this screen left before you saw it. The signals from your senses arrived late. Your brain assembled them into a unified now using a mixture of timing tricks and predictive guesswork. The now it gave you isn't a window onto reality. It's a reconstruction, a model, an extremely convincing simulation of immediacy. Then physics comes along and says that even if your brain worked instantly, there wouldn't be a universal present moment to access. Simultaneity is relative. The present depends on who's asking and how fast they're moving. And then some physicists go further and say time may not flow at all, that the whole structure of past, present, future exists at once, and your sense of moving through it is something your mind generates from the inside of a static block. And underneath all of that, unexplained, stubbornly present, undeniable, is the fact that you're experiencing any of this at all. Every now you've ever felt has been built from the recent past, filtered through prediction, assembled under a slight delay, and presented to a consciousness that nobody can fully explain. That's the actual situation. That's what's happening when you sit here and feel like you're simply watching a video in the present moment. Here's what gets me, though. None of this diminishes the experience. It makes it stranger. And stranger to me is always better than simpler. You are a system that takes a flood of delayed, fragmented, imperfect signals, builds a coherent world out of them, inhabits that world completely, and does it so well that the seams are invisible. The delay is real, but you don't feel it. The construction is happening constantly, but you experience it as direct contact with reality. The now is a best approximation, and it feels absolute. That's not a failure. That's extraordinary engineering. Evolution built you a machine that generates presence, vivid, unquestionable, continuous presence, out of processes that are always working slightly in the past. And somewhere in there, for reasons nobody can explain, there is an experience. Not just processing, not just signals, something that feels like something. You will never touch the actual present moment, not with your senses, not with your nervous system, not through the physics of time. The present technically is always just out of reach, either already passed by the time you know it, or not even a well-defined thing to reach for. And yet, here you are, feeling this, right now, or something close enough to right now that the difference doesn't show. Isn't that something?